Good Sunday morning to everyone. The Joe and Joe Weather Show back after a few days off. So hopefully everybody had a very nice welcome to the first day of spring, which came in yesterday. Mr. Rayo, you ushered it in nicely, I'm sure. And just really quick, let's do a little business here. The Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, getting ready for spring even as we speak. We've got topsoil, mulch, and the tractors and the front loaders are all moving the stuff around. So you need to get your yard in tip-top shape, or if you're a landscaper, in need of materials to get somebody else's yard in tip-top shape, Omni True Value Hardware is the place to go to. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. 6317-561125 is the telephone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. And we're also brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, right around the corner practically. Plan ahead for the next holiday season. And we've got Easter coming up, and Wholesale Holiday Lighting's got the colors for the Easter season for you. Your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs. And their website is liholidaylighting.com. So, Mr. Rayo,
Yes.
a couple of things. First off, I want to, you posted, I didn't get a chance to read it. But you did post something today or yesterday about the unequal equinox. So maybe if you could
Yes.
explain that.
Well, we're always taught, Joe, and everybody. And first of all, good morning to you. Funny thing, Joe, I saw I always watch CBS Sunday Morning, and they had a piece about famous people who give classes online. They call it the master class. And actually, two of the people who give a class is Penn and Teller. You know them, right?
Yes,
They're
of
Las
course.
Vegas magicians, whatever. And I said to myself, maybe Joe and I ought to give a master class, and we do it in the same way that Penn and Teller do it. So why don't you
Are
be
you going to
Penn
make
and
me
be the one?
disappear?
No, what I'm going to say is that you're the one who's going to do all the explaining, and of course Teller is the one that says nothing. He
Right.
does he does some of the tricks, but he says nothing. So I'm going to let you from here on, Joe. You're going to do Joe and Joe. I'm just going to sit here like this.
No, 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 no. You explain this. Okay. You do
All right,
this. I'm getting maps ready.
all
You
right.
do this.
Okay. Well, if we lived on a planet with no air, first of all, none of us would be here. But from a geometric standpoint, because the Earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees inclination to the sun, at two times during the course of the year, in March and in September, that tilt allows the entire hemisphere facing the sun to be bathed in sunlight that lasts 12 hours of day, 12 hours of night. And of course, out of a 24-hour solar day, we call this the equinox, equal days, equal nights. But it is not the truth. On the day of the equinox, which was yesterday, if you checked your local newspaper and looked at sunrise and sunset times, you would notice, you do a little bit of mental calculation, that actually the day yesterday, the day of the equinox, lasted 12 hours and 7 minutes. 7 minutes longer than 12 hours. More daylight than nighttime, or more time in the sun as opposed to being out of the sun. So why do we call it the equinox? It's because we live on a planet with an atmosphere. The atmosphere acts like a lens. When that sun comes up over the horizon, and how many of you have seen these wonderful pictures, these travel, trying to lure you, let's say, to the tropics, of the young couple, the guy in his Speedo, the gal in her bikini, walking along the beautiful white beach. And there, off in the distance, is that beautiful orange-red sun coming right above the horizon, or about to go down below the horizon. Do you know what they're doing? They're looking at an
I can
optical
only
illusion.
imagine with a bikini and a speedo, but go on.
they're looking, they're looking, and you're seeing an optical illusion. The sun is not really there. The reason why we see the sun in that position, sitting right on the horizon, either at sunrise or sunset, is because down near the horizon, the atmosphere is thickest and acts like a lens, and is actually, the sun is below the horizon, but the lens effect of the atmosphere is lifting that image above the horizon, allowing us to see it. So we actually are getting a few extra minutes of daylight when the sun is not really there, both in the morning before it has risen and after it is set. We still see the sun for a few minutes because, again, of that lifting effect. We see it for about 3 or 4 minutes extra in the morning before the sun has risen, and about 3 or so minutes before after it's set. So actually, because of the atmosphere, we add about 7 minutes to the day. That's why on the day of the equinox, it's not 12 hours of daylight, it's about 12 hours and 7 minutes. The real day when we have equal day and equal night is not the 20th of March, but actually the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. That's the day when we have equal days and equal nights. So in that article that I wrote, and you can always go to take a look at it, either on space.com or go to my Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather, I called it the unequal equinox because, again, the days are not exactly equal on the day of the equinox in both the fall, September, and also in the spring in March, because of that lifting effect of the atmosphere acting as a lens and allowing us to see the sun for a few extra minutes, both in the morning and in the evening.
All right. Okay, great. So
And there you are.
for again, for reference, go to space.com, and also you could go to Joe Rayo's Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather, to find the link. I want to mention, by the way, that Christinapedia is on the chat board today. She is in hospital, recovering from COVID issues. So we wish her all the best and lots of love, and get better really, really fast. It does, the COVID thing is, obviously still going on, and it continues to have impact. So everybody just, stay safe if you're out and about. Just want to throw that out there. Okay, and she's on the chat board right now, which is great. Awesome.
Christinapedia, one of our big fans.
Yes.
For all of these months and years, yeah.
Yes, and
nice to have you back.
And here on most nights too on the chat board. So that again, get better and get better quick. Now, before we get into the regular weather, I want to touch on something that I noticed that, for the life of me, Joe, I just could not understand this at all. And maybe you can shed some light on this. So let's go back, because we haven't been here since Wednesday. Happy St. Joseph's Day, which was Thursday. We are still waiting for that. I know you're still waiting for that 1.4 inches of snow, and I'm not here to ride you about it, but at all. But what really bugged me, and I noticed this on Friday and yesterday too, and it seemed to be coming from a lot of snow removal folks, and that was, and not all of them from here. What I did not understand is this. So I had my opinions about what was going to happen. You had your opinions. Other forecasters had their opinions. I think it became pretty clear, though, by the time we got to Thursday, that not much, if anything, was going to happen for Thursday night into Friday. Yet I got, and I have snow removal guys that I work with, and I've often brought up the concept of forecast shopping, and how dangerous it is to go forecast shopping. You come out with what your opinion is, and then of course somebody will say, well, how come you're saying this and so is saying that. I was stunned because I was getting screenshots from apps, from people's weather apps, for Thursday night and Friday, calling for all sorts of snow accumulation amounts for Friday morning. And I was shaking my head in a big way. I don't understand. I don't know where they were coming from in terms of, obviously they were model, a lot of, almost all apps, all weather apps with their forecasts are model driven. Mine is not. Okay. Those of you who use my weather app know that mine is not. There's a weather service forecast that you can get from there, but you also have my input that is there. multiple times every day, and including you could watch the show on there and everything else. I don't want to make this a commercial for the app. You can find it on Google Play or on the App Store. But it was driving me crazy, Joe. And then, of course, the day after and the day after that came endless criticisms for forecasts. I just wonder, where did these people get this idea that somehow there was going to be not just a plowable snow, but in some cases a significant plowable snow. And I will tell you, I don't want to say who it is, okay? But there was one particular weather service that on Thursday night into Thursday night was still putting up stuff that people were getting from their app, that there was a 60% chance of at least X number of inches for areas that just were not going to get it. I don't understand it. It was pretty, to me, and let me just wrap this up because when I get wrapped up on a subject matter, I tend to get winded. But this just wasn't going to happen. So I don't know how. Is it a communication problem on our part when we say something is not going to happen and everybody else seems to think that it is? I don't know how to approach this.
I don't know either, Joe. Maybe it, as our mutual friend Alan Casper used to say, some forecasters forecast with their heart rather than with their head, and I guess a lot of people on Thursday and Thursday night were forecasting more with their heart. And I would have loved to have seen Central Park get about an inch and a half of snow, which quickly would melt, just to make it to that 40-inch category. We're still not completely out of the ball game, but I had pretty well said, well, so much for tomorrow morning. I didn't even give it a second thought. But I don't know. Why would somebody go for even measurable snow, as you mentioned, plowable snow, in a situation which just wouldn't seem to support it come the night before? I don't know.
Yeah, it just was something that was on my mind for the last couple of days or so. I was just really totally annoyed by it all. So anyhow, that's me. Okay, uh, that is me, and uh, we'll hopefully, uh, when the next one comes, if and when the next one
If
comes,
if it does, yeah.
yeah,
And you never know. And you never know. I mean, like last year, in the year of, may I use a $5 word, the year of the paucity of snow. I mean, Central Park ended up with less than 5 inches all of last year. Who would have thought, or who would have put any money down that the last snowflakes would be sighted on the 9th of May, for goodness sake? After that, nothing to me is impossible. So who knows? This may be the year that we do get the 1.5 inches, but we'll have to wait until the last week of April to get it. I don't know, but it doesn't look like anytime soon we're going to be seeing any flaky weather in and around our area. In fact, a bit later in the show, I'll bring up the 3 to 4 week experimental prog from the Climate Prediction Center, which pretty much says that at least the first half of April is going to be above normal temperature wise in our part of the country, in fact, most parts of the country, and B, drier than normal. We may be in for a nice, warm, dry, for the most part, first half of April, which in many years that we've seen in the past, a backward spring with chilly temperatures and rainy conditions or whatever, that'd be a nice change of pace for a change. Yeah.
yeah. No, I agree. I don't know. It just kind of hit me the wrong way to see one person after another, after another, after another. And I just kept asking myself, where were you getting your information from? Because this was just never going to be anything of consequence to begin with. And again, as we got closer to it, it looked more and more like we were going to get nothing. And by the way, prepare yourselves for the next couple of weeks, because I'm sure there will be, and there already have been, and there will probably continue to be model runs that will show certain things that seem to defy reality. And I'm sure we're going to probably have a similar conversation in the next couple of weeks over this particular subject matter. But
Yes.
you would agree with me, at least going forward for this week, this coming week does look relatively quiet. Even with the next cold front late this week, it doesn't look like it's going to be anything to rock your socks off from what from what I've seen.
No, my socks do not look like they're getting ready to get rocked or knocked. This week does look like a very quiet week. Um, there was a forecaster I used to love, reading his discussions in Pittsburgh, who, when we got into a pattern like this, he'd always headline his technical discussion with "easy money weather this week," because this basically, if you're a synoptic forecaster, is going to be pretty easy money. The weather is going to be quiet. No big storms loom on the horizon. Temperatures will be at or above normal for the most part. So, and all things considered, especially after the February that we went through, we could use a few days of relaxation. Or as our dear friend Elmer Fudd used to say, West and we waxation at West.
At West. Okay.
At West.
All right. So I'm going to bring up the GOES satellite.
By the way, yesterday morning on Me TV, when they run Bugs Bunny, the ones that you and I grew up with,
Right.
of all those years ago, and one of them that they ran yesterday on Me TV was the Uncle Wooey episode. Uncle Wooey
Uncle
has
Wooey.
Bucket. Uncle Wooey.
Uncle Wooey. The rabbit kicked the bucket. The rabbit kicked the bucket. The bucket. The rabbit. Oh, good Lord. The world.
So what are we looking at for? Yes.
Yeah. So
the world we live in.
Yeah. The one thing that I thought, I'm still not 100%. Well, I'm still not 100% sure. I don't like the spring from the standpoint of forecasting. I've always thought that the spring is, from the standpoint of forecasting, probably the most frustrating time of year. It's even more frustrating than the winter time because the issue of the cold ocean, low clouds, and everything else is enough to drive you batty. And oftentimes you'll have situations where you're forecasting sunny skies and you wind up being overcast. And we're seeing some of that today, by the way, in the southeast. There's actually a low that's off the southeast coast, off the Georgia, South Carolina, off the Georgia, North Florida coast, actually. And if you look closely on the loop, you can actually see a little bit of a rotation there. And there's clouds. I'm sitting in these clouds. You see them backing westward across Georgia and into Alabama, also extending up into North Carolina. I'm thinking that we should be okay from this at least into Tuesday. At some point, I'm thinking that the onshore flow that's setting up because of the fact that the high this time around, and the high is kind of, in this sort of east-west fashion here overhead, and it's going out toward Cape Cod and to the east. The flow off the ocean, I think, is going to have some temperature impact. Now, whether it has sky cover impact may be another matter. I don't know how you feel about this.
Well, it's always tricky at this time of the year, as you've mentioned time and time again, in this part of the country, in the tri-state area. If you get a flow off of that chilly Atlantic Ocean, you could end up with a sudden push of low, stratus, low-hanging clouds, or a flow that, if it is robust enough, will hold temperatures along the coastline down, whereas inland areas are considerably warmer. So you always have to be careful. If you're a weathercaster and you're forecasting, if you're on television or on radio, major market radio here in this part of the country, this time of the year, your forecast tends to run a bit longer than usual because you have to take into account so many different factors. You're talking to not just one group, you're talking to a whole bunch of groups. You folks on the coastline of New Jersey and Long Island, you're going to get clouds and cool temperatures. And you folks who are listening north and west of the city, you're going to get more sunshine and warmer temperature. So all of these things, come into play when you're doing a forecast now. And this could be one of those situations this week where at first glance you say, no problem. But then, a few days later you say, well, we should have taken into account this and that or whatever like that. So you got to be careful maybe sometimes in this type of a weather pattern.
And of course, with the high where it is, it's hard to. I don't think there's going to be any rain issues, at least, unless we get into Thursday and and the atmosphere becomes a little bit, I guess, what we could call a dirty high with low clouds and maybe some moisture that a shower pops up here and there. But in terms of widespread rain, that just isn't going to happen.
No, I don't think. Again, we may be dry. The conditions in terms of the sky conditions may not necessarily be bright and sunny and pristine. You may have more clouds than you care to see, but it does look, at least for the next several days, like that it's dry. And by the way, in spite of the fact that we had that rain last week, and it did amount to, in many areas, at or above 1 inch, in spite of that, we're running in terms of rainfall so far this season, Joe, or so far since the start of the year, we're in a bit of a deficit. We're about 1.5 to 2 inches below normal. So what we could use is a nice gentle, rain to get us closer to the norms. But again, it does look like that's going to happen at least through the next 3 or 4 days here.
Yeah, exactly. We could, the rain that we had a few days ago. We've been getting these rainfall situations days and weeks apart. So it'd be a good thing would be to get maybe a couple of these back to back. Might be a bit more helpful with as far as settling down the dryness. But you mentioned, as you said, with the long range, that it just doesn't look, it looks like it's going to be more dry than anything else. Radar right now, if you look at the U.S. loop here, thanks to UCAR, pretty quiet in the Carolinas, down into Florida, though, right along the coast, you're seeing the effects of that ocean low, producing some light showers. And we've got precipitation up in Utah and extending up into Montana and parts of Wyoming. And this is where, by the way, winter is still going on. I've got WPC's forecast here up for the potential for at least 4 inches, and it covers much of central Colorado. Looks like the I-25 corridor up and down, kind of right in the heart of this, of the snowfall that they're indicating. And I'm putting up the probability of at least 8, and there are going to be stretches west of Denver and on northward from there, where it's an 80% or higher probability of at least 8. And even Denver gets into the 50 to 60% probability of at least 8. So there is some winter is still going on in some parts of the country. It's mostly out in the west. You see the probabilities that are also up in the Pacific Northwest coast. I'll lower the number just to give you a bit of a wider range and go to 4. Meanwhile, so it's up and down the Rockies. And meanwhile, for the same time frame in the next 72 hours in the Northeast and over in the Great Lakes, not a flake, not an ice pellet, nothing.
Nothing. Not even a little spritz here and there.
Nope.
It will be dry, and it's nice. I said to myself the other day, looking out, I mean, it's nice to finally see my lawn again, and now. After all, we had so much wind last week. I got to get out there and pick up a lot of those sticks and branches that broke off from that wind from last week. And it's time, I guess, to start thinking hard and long about getting everything into shape for the upcoming spring and summer season. And these long stretches of dry and relatively mild weather will certainly go a long way toward that.
WPC on their rainfall over the next 7 days, not really showing too much in the Northeast, but mostly on the order of 1/2 inch to maybe as much as 1 inch in pockets, northern New England, inland of the coast from the Catskills on south and west. You start to get into the bigger amounts across the central Gulf states, where we're seeing rainfall amounts of several inches or more, particularly in southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and southern Alabama, with a low that's probably going to come out of there later this week. Up and down the Rockies, melted precip amounts on the order of 1 inch to 1.5 inches or more in some places, particularly in central Colorado. So you see where the purple is on WPC's map is pretty much where you have that 8 inches or more being indicated in the next 72 hours, and there's more coming after that. Also some wet weather up in the Pacific Northwest. Severe weather-wise, Joe, it doesn't look like this is going to be a huge week with respect to severe weather, at least so far. In fact, they're actually talking more about critical fire danger for areas of the Southwest because of how dry it is. But as far as severe weather is concerned, there's no severe weather forecast for today or Tuesday. Tomorrow, there is a small area of risk being indicated for parts of Oklahoma and northern Texas. And then I'll just jump over the day 4 to 8 time frame. They're not putting anything as far as anything in their long range, but they are saying predictability too low for days 4 through 8. So that doesn't mean there won't be severe weather. That means that there's not enough there for them to put up a long range risk zone.
Right.
I wouldn't be. I'm not going to be surprised as we go through the latter part of the week when we get into the long range from SPC that there will be some risk showing up somewhere. But it's too early for them to put it up in their long range outlook. So we don't have the new GFS because we're on daylight saving time. We do have the NAM.
Yes, lovely.
Yes, I know. I had to say that. I had to bring that up. Again, in the East, it's really about the position of the high, which is out here in off the New England coast, and the fact that you have this sort of onshore flow. You've got a weak low off the North Carolinas, really not producing any rain. There's a low up in Iowa with a trailing cold front that is moving eastward. Most of the energy with this is well to the north. It doesn't have a ton of Gulf inflow, which is why you don't really see too much in the way of convection, although some heavier rains start to show up in southeast Louisiana, southern Mississippi, and Alabama along about Wednesday. But the east looks fine. Take a look out in Colorado, and you can see that one of the issues is you get this energy coming down from the northwest, producing some areas of heavy snow from time to time. There's one system that is, of course, there now that is setting up now for tonight and for Monday, as soon as the circle of death stops spinning here. But you can see it here this evening, starting to form with an expanding area of snow in Colorado and parts of northwestern Kansas. That low is going to be what heads up to the lakes, and then there's more energy that comes down. You see more snow in there as we head into Wednesday, and then there's another system that's headed down from the northwest. So it does seem that all the action is there in the western part of the United States from the standpoint of snow. On the GFS, and we'll take a look at this today, you start to see a little bit of shower activity here well inland in western New York and western PA down the Appalachians on Wednesday. So that's part of that, I guess, the high getting dirtier is a way to put it. And then here's a low that comes out into Arkansas on Thursday. This is where you might see, a chance for some severe weather risk in parts of the deep south on Thursday in Alabama and Mississippi again, and maybe even into North Georgia and western North Carolina come Friday. Joe, the GFS has backed off on showing widespread rain showers here. It looks like it really doesn't show much of anything with a frontal passage here along about Friday. I don't know if that's true or not. The other models don't seem to be all on the same page with this.
Well, let's invoke what I call Antoine's rules. Tex Antoine, of course, for those of you who remember him from many, many years back. Not a meteorologist, but probably New York's most popular TV weatherman during the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. And he used to, he'd show a weather map, he'd show a front approaching, and the National Weather Service, which we based his forecast that he used to promote on the air, he'd say, well, the guys at the Weather Service aren't predicting any precipitation with this frontal passage, and then he'd look at you with a somewhat semi-vexing look, and he'd say, but a front is a front is a front. And in other words, what he's trying to say is, regardless, whether the machines, as he called them, said that there's not going to be any precipitation and it's going to be dry as that front passes by, the heck, mention at least a shower with the frontal passage, because, again, a front is a front. So we might very well do that, even though the one of the models here is saying, well, now it looks like it's going to be dry. Mention the shower. What the heck? No one's going to get mad at you if we do get one. It doesn't look like a whole heck of a lot, but it is, I think, something that you may want to mention.
All right. Now, Uh, Here is after that goes by next weekend looks okay, and of course I'm some attention being drawn to this idea for next Sunday into Monday of energy on the GFS anyway that dives down from the Great Lakes, and you get a low that develops in Maryland and then strengthens. And this for a couple of runs now showing snows up in northern New England. I will tell you that if you look at what's going on in the upper air, the one thing that is different from the other models is the fact that the GFS is bringing energy down from Canada and digging it southeastward into the eastern part of the United States and strengthening it. If you look at the European, for example, the European shows a much weaker system coming down from the north and strengthening it when it's well biased to the east. So this would be, on the Europeans' view, would be nothing more than a cold front that would probably come through here sometime later on Sunday or Sunday night, and who knows what would be with that precip-wise, maybe a couple of showers, and that would be that. I would tend to think that this is probably the more likely outcome from anything that we may be seeing down the road. In other words, I don't believe the GFS's idea of showing, some kind of big storm for the Northeast for next weekend. And so if you hear it in the gossip rooms, the weather gossip rooms that are out there, you have my never to be humble opinion. We're in a time of year, Joe. I don't think you would disagree with me. We're at a time of year where it's prove it to me. Okay, this is a time of year where
we're all from Missouri.
Exactly.
The show me state.
Show me. Prove it to me. Yeah. You're going to have to really start to convince me hard on the idea that we could wind up with a late season snow, end of March, early April type event. Has it happened in the past? Of course it's happened in the past. Will it happen again in the future? I'm sure it will happen in the future. I just don't think that this is the future that we're looking this future, the next couple of weeks. I'm just not feeling it. Again, you'll have to prove it to me.
And of course, next Sunday, an important day in the Christian calendar. It is Palm Sunday.
Correct.
Next Sunday. Yeah.
And the Sunday after that is Easter Sunday.
Right. And the reason why we have Easter, why it's all lined up this way, next Sunday, along with being Palm Sunday, we have that night the Paschal full moon, the full moon, the first full moon of spring, and always, not always, but after the first full moon, the Sunday following the first spring full moon is Easter Sunday. Interesting. It's interesting, Joe, what the astronomers say as for dating Easter Sunday does not always line up with what the church, what the Vatican says, because the Vatican's follows a different set of rules. I don't know if you know this. There's something called the golden number,
right,
and other factors. The Vatican calculates the time of full moon based upon these somewhat arcane tables that they've used for hundreds and thousands of years, which differ from what the astronomers use. Also, the Vatican recognizes the first day of spring not as the 20th or even the 19th of March anymore. They say, traditionally, that spring begins on the 21st of March. So there are cases, they're few and far between, but there are some cases where what astronomy says we should be celebrating the Easter Sunday holiday differs from what the Vatican says, because the Vatican, again, are using these out-of-date rules. Case in point, in one particular situation, in the year 2038, according to the astronomers, Easter should be occurring that year in late March. The Vatican says, no. Easter that year comes on April the 25th. That April the 25th is as late in the season, as late as you could possibly have Easter. So if you and I are still around in the year 2038, we will be celebrating an Easter Sunday that comes only mere weeks before Memorial Day. as late as into April as you could possibly have. But again, that's because the Vatican, I think that year, again, the full moon that year comes on March 20th. So we should be celebrating Easter because March 20th is spring. But the Vatican says, no, according to our rules, it's March 21st. So we have
Right.
to wait until next month.
Well, the Greek,
So that's,
the Greek Orthodox Church and the Russian Orthodox Church, they use isn't it, what is it, the full moon, the first full moon after the first day of spring, and then the full
right.
moon, and it's the first Sunday after that, something like that.
Correct. But what I'm saying is that, you say, okay, well, all we have to do is look at the astronomical tables and see when spring begins and where the first moon after spring, and you do that. But again, the use of the golden number and a couple of other things that the Vatican uses or relies on, they say no. We have to say that spring begins regardless on the 21st of March, and according to our tables, if we have a full moon on this date, whereas the astronomers say it's on that date, then you end up with these discrepancies. It doesn't happen very often.
Right.
In fact, I'm supposed to do a column for space.com about this. The Pascal, it's called the Pascal term. And another thing that's confusing, and some of our folks on the chat board maybe of the Jewish faith, usually when you have that first full moon of spring, the Pascal term, that also coincides with the first night of Passover, but not always. And again, the Jewish or the Hebrew faith has their own set of rules. So it's all rather confusing. It all boils down to, again, the motions of the moon and where we are in our orbit relative to the sun or whatever. But anyway, next Sunday.
I just look at what's on sale at the supermarkets. When lamb goes on sale, when lamb goes on sale, I know that Easter is, that Passover and Easter are getting close.
Well, again, it's an important date next Sunday because, again, it is Palm Sunday next Sunday. And the last thing that we want to see, regardless of the fact that the GFS wants to cook up a monster nor'easter with possible rain and snow next Sunday, the last thing we want to see is that. We always want to see nice weather on all holidays, Palm Sunday, Passover, Easter Sunday. By the way, also, March 29th, which this year is on a Monday, March 29th in 1970 was Easter Sunday, and we had 4 inches of snow in Central Park. And up here where I lived, I think we had like a foot of snow on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, if I remember, in the Bronx, we had a foot, or close to it, as I remember.
Yeah.
And I have memories of the piles of snow and the water rolling down the hill where I lived the next couple of days, because it really didn't snow very much that winter, so it kind of all made it up toward the end.
If you think about Easter Sunday, it's a weird holiday in terms of holidays, because in terms of weather, because if I mention to you, what's the weather on Christmas Day, you immediately think of a snow-covered, field with snowmen and flakes falling down. That's Christmas Day. Think about the 4th of July and immediately think of people at the beach in hot weather, because that's what we expect the 4th of July. Easter, because of it's a movable feast, you can have either one of those. You could have a big snowstorm, as we had in 1970. 6 years later, Easter came on April 18th. We had 96 degrees in New York City. So we can go either way with that. It's again, because of the fact it's a movable feast and occurring right at that transitional time of the year between the winter and the spring. You could have all kinds of weather on Easter Sunday.
All right. Scott Briller hitting a super chat today. Thank you, Scott. And Joe, you have the questions.
Briller Jeopardy. Yeah.
Yes, because and I hope it's not an example of what our audience may be doing, but JJ's been with me here in my little room, and he's fast asleep. So he's the show is not riveting enough to keep him awake. Let's put it that way.
This is kind of like the same thing that happens to me when I turn on Bob Ross.
Yes.
And if you have trouble, if you're an insomniac and you can't get to sleep, just turn Bob Ross on and just listen. And within 10 minutes, you're out. I always call Saturday night, Joe, is Bob Ross night because WLIW on channel on their Create channel 133, they start playing Bob Ross at 9 o'clock, and then they have another channel on Optimum channel 144, the Arts channel, and they start running Bob Ross at 11 o'clock. You could Bob Ross yourself all night long. It goes from 9 o'clock. It's like a marathon, 9 to 5. So I wish they would do that all night for insomniacs. But anyway, I hope that we're not the equivalent of Bob Ross for JJ, and JJ's just
Yeah, no, he's still out. Even talking about him hasn't woken him up yet.
Huh.
All right, you got the questions.
Yes, I will give them to you right now. Ba, 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 ba. And here we go.
Go ahead.
And this is Briller Jeopardy for Sunday from Mr. Chiaffi in honor of his new dog, JJ. And the category is dogs. Multiple choice. And there are 10 questions here. Question 1, normal adult dogs have how many teeth? A, 24, B, 16, C, 42, and D, 32. How many teeth does a normal
Well,
adult
it
dog
feels
have?
like 42 because of how he wants to gnaw on my hand. 32 is I think humans have 32. So I'll say the third choice, 24.
Well, you had it right off the bat at the very beginning. It does feel like, and it is 42.
It's 42? Okay.
42
I didn't
teeth.
actually sit
Wow.
there and count all his teeth, but all right, it does feel like 42.
Okay. Here's question 2. JJ, if you want to, by the way, JJ, if he's listening, if he wants to answer some of these questions, all he has to do is just bark. Question 2, through what part of the body do most dogs sweat? A, the armpits. I never even thought of dogs having armpits. B, ears. C, backside. D, paws.
Say it again. Give me what are the choices again? I never thought of
A,
this either.
through what part of the body do most dogs sweat? A, armpits. B, ears. C, backside. D, paws.
Oh my God. I have no idea. I'll say pause.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Paws is the correct answer.
Well, that was
So,
nice.
there you go. Yes. Question 3 is, what is the most common training command taught to dogs? A, stay. B, beg. C, sit. D, dance. So what would you most likely teach your dog to do first?
Well, the first
Stay,
thing,
beg, sit, or dance?
the first thing I taught him was to sit. So that's I'll say it's either stay or sit. So I'll say sit.
C, sit.
It is
You are
sit.
correct. It is. You are correct.
Now, if I could teach
And
him
by
how
the
to
way-
wash my, if I could train him to wash my dishes, that would be nice.
Now, growing up in the Bronx, I've had 2 dogs in my life. My beloved Yorkie, Comet, but I also had, when I was growing up in the Bronx, I had a French poodle, Gigi, and I taught Gigi how to dance. And how I did that was I used to take bologna. I used to take, how you would peel the end of the bologna, the
Right.
skin around the edge of the bologna, and I used to hold it up and I'd say, "Here, Gigi," and Gigi would stand on her hind legs and she would try to reach up and jump up and down to get to the bologna. And when she did that, I would say, "Dance, dance, dance." So after a while, whenever I said dance, she would get up on her hind legs, jump up and down, and expecting that she would get the bologna. Of course, if I didn't get the bologna, she'd be PO'd at me, but that's how I taught her how to dance.
Well, you could see.
Anyway.
You could see JJ what he's doing.
Yeah.
He remains totally unimpressed by all this.
All right.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Next one.
Question 4, puppies are delivered how many weeks after conception? A, 36, B, 22, C, 9, and D, 14.
What was the highest number?
36.
I'll say 36.
No, actually, it's C. It's 9. And Gigi, by the way,
Wait a minute.
was
Hold on. Let's say that. No.
puppies are delivered how many weeks after conception?
9 days of gestation for a dog. That can't.
Well, he didn't say how many. No, how many weeks? Weeks.
Oh, weeks. I'm sorry. Yeah, no. For some reason I said 9 weeks makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Right.
For some reason
Sorry about that.
I misheard that. I thought you said days.
Your days. Boy, that's fast.
Yeah. I mean, even guppies take a little bit longer than that. Next, go
Question
on.
5. Question 5. What is the smallest dog breed? A, is it a Dachshund or Dachshund?
A dachshund.
B, a Shih Tzu. C, Pomeranian.
Right.
Or D, a Chihuahua.
Well, I mean, how do you measure? I mean, dachshunds. Then they have miniature dachshunds, which are really small.
Right.
The Chihuahuas are small, so it's either I'll say Chihuahua, but if it turns out to be a Dachshund, I wouldn't be shocked.
Give that man a chalupa. It is Chihuahua.
The Chihuahua, okay.
Yes. Number 6. Boy, this is interesting. I definitely know one of the answers is wrong. What dog breed has a black tongue? Is it A, a husky?
Ugh.
B, a poodle, C, I hope I pronounced this correctly, a Weimaraner?
Spell it.
Weimaraner, Weimaraner.
Never heard of it.
Weimaraner. Never heard of it either.
Well, we marinate them. We marinate them too, but that's.
Or D, a chow chow. Hey, Ralph, you got a little piccalilli in that refrigerator?
Yeah.
A little chow chow?
Cranmar. What are the choices again?
Husky, A, husky, B, poodle, C, the dog that we can't seem to figure out how to pronounce properly, or D, chow chow.
I'll say a chow.
D, mariner.
The folks on the chat jar say it's a chow, so we'll go with the chow.
Yeah. Chow, 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 chow. Yes, it is a chow chow. So here we go with answers to a question number 7. This is interesting. I've never heard of this. What dog yodels instead of barks? A commander, B, an otterhound, C, a Basenji, or D, a basset hound? I never heard of this.
I don't know. The basset hound, the hound cry is, I mean, if you want to describe it as a yodel, I mean, the other ones I have no idea on. So,
well, the correct answer is Basenji,
mm-hmm.
Basenji, and we all know, Joe, that all basset hounds sound very much like Mary Jane Croft. If you are old timers like Joe and I, there was a show and it was from the 1950s, but they used to rerun it on CBS in the late night or early morning hours into the 1960s. The name of the show was The People's Choice, and it wasn't Bob Cummings. I think it was who played Perry White in the Superman movies?
Oh, John Hamilton.
No, Jackie Cooper.
Oh, Jackie Cooper. I'm sorry, in the movies. John Hamilton in the series.
Right.
Okay.
Jackie Cooper.
I worked with Jackie Cooper's son on and off for many years, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Russell.
Well, Jackie Cooper was the star of this situation comedy called The People's Choice, and he had a dachshund. No, not a dachshund. He had a basset hound named Cleo, and Cleo used to break the fourth wall. In other words, she used to talk to the audience. And Cleo's voice was that of Mary Jane Croft, who played Lucy's best friend on the Lucy Show. She was the voice of this basset hound on The People's Choice. Look
Yeah.
it up on Wikipedia, for God's sake. And then
Okay.
you, and when you look at it, and when you look it up, you'll know how old at least I am. Talking about a TV show that's never run anymore on television,
And
but
I'm not that
still
far
loved.
behind, so
Yeah.
uh,
Qu- Question. Now, believe it or not, I didn't know this until I read this question. But believe it or not, what is the name on the front of the? What is the name of the dog on the front of the Cracker Jack box? You know, with the sailor, and he's got a little
yeah.
dog at his knee. So what is it? Is it A, Jack, B, Max, C, Bingo, or D, Fido?
Candy coated popcorn, peanuts, and a prize. That's
Santa
what you
Pro.
get it with Cracker Jack. Um, hmm. I mean, Jack would be kind of logical since it's the name of the product, but I'll say
Right.
Fido.
These would, by the way, these questions would be perfect, not for Jeopardy, but these would be perfect for that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, which right
Yeah.
now is being hosted by Jimmy Kimmel. The answer to this is Bingo.
Okay.
Wasn't there a song? There was a dog who had
Yes,
his name,
yes.
and
The
Bingo
bingo
was
was
his
his name.
name. Oh,
Oh
we
God.
used to drive. We used to drive the CYO bus driver crazy by singing that as loud as we could in the back of the bus.
Oh,
Yes,
we
that is
sang we
number 8.
sang 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
Right,
Next.
and great green globs of grimy gopher guts,
Right, exactly. Is that the last?
mutilated monkey meat.
Was that the last
No, no,
question?
no. Question 9. We have 10 of these. How old was the oldest dog ever in the world? Was it A 25? B is. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, B. Yes. Hey, Scott, you gave me 2 C's here. C and C. B, which he labeled as C, 27, C, 29, or D, 34. The oldest dog ever in the world.
29.
That is correct. There actually was a dog that lived to be 29. I have no clue what the. Generally speaking, the smaller the dog, the longer they live. And you and I both worked with a lovely news anchor, Courtney Kane, and Courtney told me she had a toy Yorkie, a teacup Yorkie who lived to be 21, and that's about as long as I could ever remember a dog living. But 29 was the longevity of the oldest dog in the world. And the last question, question 10, and bonus worth 2 points. The chairman will turn 61 on May the 10th. How many dogs has he owned? How would we know this? A0, B1, C2, D4.
I'll say 0.
And you are correct.
Okay.
And we'll
Just
have to remember that May the 10th
All right.
for his birthday. And he said, Joe, I forgot that Easter Sunday is April the 4th. So, because he had scheduled Renata's cooking Briller Jeopardy to April the 4th. We'll now have to move that to April 11th unless we have a snowstorm on that day. Hey, Joe, you never know.
Yes, exactly. All right. So let's wrap it up for this Sunday because the weather, you know what, is too nice not to be outside. So head outside
Absolutely.
and enjoy your day. We've got fine weather here in the Northeast. Yesterday was a great day. Temperatures today getting a degree or 2 higher. So really, you got to take advantage, especially in the springtime, because you know as well as I do that sooner or later we're going to get into one of these gloom and doom patterns where it's going to be cloudy and gloomy and doomy for about 3 or 4 days or longer. So and you'll be begging for the sun. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you, Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware. They got mulch and everything else you need to get your yard in order. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, 631-756-1125. The best prices in town, omnitruevalue.com. And also brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst. Your complete holiday lighting specialist meeting all your decorating needs. Plan ahead for your next holiday season. And by the way, they have all the colors for decorating for Easter too. So it's not just Christmas and Halloween. It's St. Patrick's Day. It's Easter. It's Valentine's Day. So give them a call, 631-957-5106. And their website is liholidaylighting.com. So, the plan of attack here, Joe, is that we'll have a show for tomorrow night. I'm going to be on the road Tuesday, unless I decide to leave a little early tomorrow. But more than likely, I'll probably wait till Tuesday. But in case that
Wait a minute.
changes,
Chaffee's coming back.
I'm coming
to
back.
The tri-state area.
Yeah, I'm coming back.
Uh-oh.
So,
hey, folks, he's coming back. So maybe, just maybe that storm next Sunday might actually have a little more punch to it now.
Well, if that were to happen, it's merely a coincidence, okay? Because I've already made my position known on this. I'm dead set against it. So, for now.
And we'll leave you with this thought: on this day in 1744, Swedish astronomer Anders Celsius died, and he was 43. Although his rival Fahrenheit is thoroughly convinced he was really 109.
Yeah. Oh, good God. I saw that joke, too, a couple of weeks ago somewhere. All right. By the way, Facebook, there have been issues on Facebook for at least a week, ever since that they went to another new format, which forces you to have to switch profiles if you have your personal page and you have some other page, like, in our case, it's a weather page. So it just makes things, they just made things very difficult, and a lot of the tools that I normally use with web pages and that kind of thing have not worked and haven't been working. So there's been some technical issues going on this week. Just want to let you know. Hopefully they will be every day one little thing comes back and starts working again. So
and before we end our lives on this earth, everything will be controlled by Bluetooth.
Pretty much.
Oh, you don't have. My goodness, Joe, it works on Bluetooth, for crying out loud. That's how it all is going to end for us.
Yep, we're all going to be Bluetoothed. All right, everybody, have a great day. Enjoy it. Enjoy the nice weather, and we'll see you tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern Time.
Yes.